Hello and welcome to our latest video. My name is Sara Patenkovic and I'm an application engineer at KEBA Industrial Automation. In today's video, we unveil the mystery behind the communication interfaces. What are communication interfaces? How to use them? Which communication interfaces are there? Let's dive right in. Communication interfaces are used for, as the name indicates, communication and exchange of data between the controller and the device. So basically, this is the way for us to read information from the controller, but also write to it. The data that can be transferred between the controller and the device are keyboard buttons, optional elements, electronic type plate, and so on. By pressing keyboard buttons, we are able to change, for example, the mode we're in, so switch between jog, MDA, and auto. One more thing. When talking about optional elements, this means there is a possibility to have, for example, override, like here, or key switch, as seen here. With the key switch, we can change access rights. Of course, there are many options to choose from. Communication interfaces we support here at KEBA are S7 interface, OPC-UA, Modbus, ADS, and last but not least, our very own KVC or KEBA Virtual Channel Interface. Just like in everyday life, for communication to take place, two sides are needed. One-sided conversation won't get you very far. The same happens here. So, what do we have to do to establish communication between controller and the device? Since our system that you can see here uses S7 interface, we'll use this interface as an example. But the logic is the same for every other communication interface as well. So, for S7 interface to work, variables at PLC side need to be mapped with hardware operator controls available in KTOP. Therefore, precondition is to have variables at PLC. The first step is to define these controller variables. In this case, this can be done via S7 programming software like TIA Portal. The second step is to configure the device, in this case, KTOP. This is done in special configuration file where all parameters required for S7 connections and register mapping are specified. Important thing to note here is that this configuration file is not initially configured, so some default and example values are defined, so of course all configuration parameters need to be defined in the correct way. Now, configuration file consists of multiple sections. All of the communication interfaces mentioned here have communication and mapping sections, but for example, OPC-UA has also security mode and user identity token sections. Also, very important and not to be forgotten, KTOP needs to be restarted in order for changes to take place. So, now that we know what needs to be done and both sides are configured, let's take a look at the final result. In this example here, we are using S7 interface in order to connect to Siemens PLC. We have here one mobile device with cable and one without it. But let's take, for example, this one with the cable. Here, you can see that we get the same variables that we can also see on the stationary panel. So pay attention here, for example, to this hand. This is jog mode. That means that reading operation works. Now let's try writing. So we have jog mode here on both, and we have these buttons, jog, MDA, auto. Let's try to go to MDA. And here you can see that the change is propagated to the PLC by comparing to what is displayed on the panel. One question that often arises when talking about communication interfaces and taking into account what KEBA offers, like this hand wheel here that we have on mobile wireless device, is can hand wheel be transmitted via S7 interface? The answer is it can be transferred to the PLC, but the signal needs to be available at the numeric control, and therefore we suggest doing this with the Profinet box instead. With that, we are at the end of today's video. Thank you, and hopefully we'll see each other again in the next episode.